Hey guys, how are you? Hope you're well. This is the third tutorial on jQueries and we are going to be looking at events. We're going to be looking at the bind class and also the hover class. And just to show you guys what I've got at the moment in design view, I've got a title and I've got a div. There's text inside the div. The div has a class and the class is called the normal class, and it's also got an ID which is the target. So I've just typed in target and I've given it an ID. And just to look at the class, so if I go inside the code view, you can see the normal class has got all the normal properties. So font size, font color, and the color is white and the background color is blue. The second class I've got, which isn't being used at the moment, has got everything exactly the same as the normal class apart from the background color, which is a lighter blue. So okay, just to show you guys, in the code I've got the target ID for that particular div and the normal class, which is this class, attached to it. Okay, so as you guys know from the previous tutorials, this is how we start off our jQuery. So we've referenced our jQuery file, which is here in the files panel, and we downloaded that from jQuery.com, and you can check out my first tutorial if you want to know how I did that. The script type is JavaScript, and we've got the jQuery started, and when this document is ready, this function is called. At the moment we haven't got any functions, and we are going to start off by calling the bind function, and we're going to actually trigger off an event. So the first thing we're going to do is start off by putting in our jQuery. So I'm going to put my $sign inside and going to open and close my brackets, and again open and close my speech marks, and I'm going to target the ID of the div, which is going to be target. So I'm going to target the target, I guess, and because it's an ID, it starts with a hash sign. So if you can see, the classes start with a dot, the IDs start with a hash, and that's one of the basics of CSS. Okay, so I've started with the hash tag at the front, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to target the bind tag, the bind class, and open close the brackets and put a semicolon just so I don't forget. And this is going to have two parameters, two arguments within, and the first one is what event we want to trigger. So the first event I want to trigger is a mouse over. So when the mouse overs are over, I want something to happen, and what I want to happen is, in the second parameter, I'm going to actually put the class that I want to trigger. So I want to trigger the highlight class, and we haven't created the highlight class at the moment. Oops, I forgot to put the second speech mark, so I've done that right there. So I want to trigger off the highlights class, and so we're going to actually create the highlight class now. So I'm going to go towards the end of my code after the semicolon of this first part of my code, and I'm going to type in function. I'm going to type in function highlight. This class name could be anything, but I've just picked highlight because I've actually put highlight here, so I'm referencing it correctly. And then I'm going to open close that, and it's going to have an event inside, and then curly braces, and close my curly brace and put a semicolon inside. Now we're ready to type in the code inside the highlight class. And the class what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to use the toggle class. So what I'm going to do is put my start my jQuery off, open close my brackets. I'm going to do exactly the same thing as I did before for the bind class. So I'm going to target. So this is what I want. This is where I want the action to happen. So we've triggered the event. Mouse over should be over, so that's a spelling mistake from me. So mouse over, and this highlight class is called, and this is what I'm targeting. So the target class, and what I want to happen. What do I want to happen? I want to toggle classes. So I'm going to use a class called toggleClass, capital C for class, and again I've got my what they call brackets, and inside here I'm going to type in which class I want to toggle. So I'm going to toggle to the second class. So the second class is over, so I want it to switch from normal to over. So I'm just going to type in over. Okay, so that's the first bit of code completed. Now one thing that we need to do is when the mouse is dragged over, the mouse also has a second event, which is mouse leave. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this particular part, and I'm going to type in, or I'm just going to copy paste, and I'm going to change from mouse over to mouse leave. Okay, so what that does, the reason I'm referring it back to the highlight class is because I've used the toggle class. So what that does is, if you think of a switch, it's on and it's off. So it's over, meaning it's toggled to over, and then it's removed the over class again. So it goes back to normal, which just so happens to be the normal class. So I'm just going to hit F12 and see how this runs. So you guys can see it's got rollover, and see as I've rolled over it's changed classes. So it's a very slight change because the class only has a subtle difference. So I've rolled over and that has changed. So what I'm going to do just to show you guys exactly that it's actually working properly, I'm just going to put 36 inside the pixels. I'm going to press F12 this time, and that saved it, and watch how it changes. Yeah, so you can see when it rolls over, it's changed the color, and it's also changed the size. Okay, so that was the first part of this tutorial. The second part, what we're going to do is, firstly, I'm just going to comment this out. What this does is it just basically that is no longer in usage. You use comments just for notes for the programmer to read what's actually happening, and because mainly programmers share codes, they can actually leave notes to each other, kind of thing. But anyway, so that was just 2 slashes to add comments, and that code is no longer in action. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my code exactly the same, but I'm going to call the hover class, and I'm going to edit paste and dot hover, and I'm going to open close my brackets, and I'm going to put my semicolon inside. Now what I'm going to do is the two parameters inside here are going to be highlight and highlight, and I'll explain that in a second. We're toggling between the hover classes, sorry, the over class. So the over class will be on 1 second and it'll be off the next second. So what I'll need to do is I need to just call the same class twice. So it's sort of like a trick. What I could actually do is create 2 classes and have one class set to one CSS rule and have another class set to a second CSS rule. But this is a sort of a simple trick. And so hover, so when mouse is over, it's going to go to the highlight, and when mouse comes back out, it's going to go back to the highlight class. The highlight class is just toggling between the 2 sections. So this is a separate class to show you guys. I'm going to hit F12 again, and hopefully this should work. So it's exactly the same thing happened, same result achieved, but in 2 different ways and 2 very important classes. So we've looked at the bind class, and we've looked at the hover class, and we've looked at how events work. So this is sort of preparing you for something a lot more in depth. This is a basic tutorial. Now I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll be creating something on clicks next time. So when something is clicked, another event should trigger, and so on. Make sure you press the like button or give me a thumbs up, and make sure you actually subscribe to my channel, and I'll be creating a lot more YouTube videos from now on. So take care.